Hare Krishna. This is Dr. Michael here from ISKCON Vrindavan. Tonight I'm going to do a talk based on a small poll that we did from our members of our Krishna Prem community. And the most popular question that came up was issues and challenges in life and how you would like to know how Krishna consciousness can help. We all get challenges in our life, but often we look at challenges as a very negative connotation. You see, when we have challenges, we have a negative or positive or a good or a bad. And often we see things in a more of a negative thing because there's so much negativity going on generally in our lives. But in Krishna consciousness, we start to look at things very differently. What we look at is not only what the challenge is, but why do we have challenges? And what Lord Krishna teaches us is, in order for us to be able to move forward with our lives, we need to have a challenge, because every challenge comes with a lesson. And that enables us to learn and move forward and evolve ourselves. So rather than necessarily thinking that a challenge has a negative side, it means within Krishna consciousness, it's very different to dealing with a challenge in the material world. With a challenge in the material world, yes, you definitely have a positive and negative outcome. And usually you have a preference to which outcome you want it to be, or outcome you like it to be. But in Krishna consciousness, either outcome, whether it's positive or negative, is actually positive. Because what we start to realise is everything is by Krishna's arrangement. When everything's by Krishna's arrangement, whatever the outcome is meant to be. And therefore we have gained not only the outcome that was meant to happen, but we're starting to learn to have more faith and belief. You see, in this day and age, in Kali Yuga, living in the material world, we've lost a lot of faith and belief. But with every challenge that we get, gives us an opportunity to renew that trust. You see, in the material world, as I'm sure I've mentioned to you before, we don't know who to trust. Whether it's a politician, whether it's a government, whether what we read on Google, or WhatsApp, or Facebook, we never know what the source of the information is. And therefore, we don't know what to believe or not to believe. And similarly, when we have a challenge, we try to work it out for ourselves. Now, depending on how our mind is programmed and wired, we sometimes have an intention of what we want the outcome to be, and therefore we can prejudice it. So how do we deal with something without putting our own prejudices in the way and influencing the outcome? So what we try to do is, rather than look at the challenge, what we need to do is sometimes step away from it. If we step away from the challenge and allow Lord Krishna to take over this challenge and guide us in whatever way he feels is necessary for us, then we're more likely to get an unbiased response. So what does that mean, and how do we do it? Well, often when we've got a challenge to deal with, we go into the mind and we deliberate, shall I do this or shall I not do this? Would this be of benefit or not benefit? Do I prefer this or do I prefer that? Or is this going to make me happier or this is going to make me more upset? So we've got all these opposing influences of what we would like to feel in the situation or the challenge. So, what can we do that's so different? So, what I will do is explain to you on my own personal experience of what I do in order to be able to not get caught up in the Maya mind. You see, Maya starts to take over, and when she starts to take over, then she goes wild, because there are so many different scenarios, so many different possible outcomes. And when Maya is strong, she's highly influential. Now, as I've no doubt mentioned before, one of the ways that Maya Devi goes a little bit quieter is if we start to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So when we start to chant the Maha Mantra, Maya Devi starts to go a little bit quieter. And what I tend to do is, if I'm stuck with a challenge and I'm not too sure what's happening or what to do, it's like, for instance, this meetup tonight was meant to be a group call, but I was challenged. I was challenged because it's a holy festival and the network is overrun and I couldn't get a good enough connection to have the meetup. So I had to abandon it. So rather than getting into my mind thinking, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Am I going to disappoint other people? Am I going to disappoint myself? No. What I did was I just allowed things to flow and see what happened next. I let my feet do the walking. I left the room I was in and came outside. Thought I'd try and get a better connection. And lo and behold, no, I still couldn't get a good connection. So what I did was I abandoned the call. You see, the reason why I'm able to do that and not feel that it's a negative is because by me spending so much time focusing on my Maha Mantra, thinking about Lord Krishna, talking about Lord Krishna, watching about Lord Krishna, listening about Lord Krishna, I had gained some immediate clarity. Immediate clarity was, okay, solution, let's do a video and I can send it to you and then you can watch it. So for those of you who spend more time in the material world than I do, I spend very little time in the material world at all. I spend the whole time here in the Mandir, and whenever I do go out, it is to do something spiritual, because the only thing I go out to do is to do something for the ashram, for my seva, or I should say Krishna seva. So, what can you do? So what I would say to you is, whenever you get a challenge and you're not sure what you should do, you think Maya's taking over, or you're being biased towards something for maybe an ego reason, or because you have a personal preference, step back and start chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I suggest you do at least one round and then assess how you feel. And what is best to do is, rather than thinking, okay, I've done my round, let's deal with the challenge now, reflect on what you feel in that moment in time. If you feel that you need to do more chanting, then go back to it. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And if you have that feeling, okay, it doesn't feel right at the moment, it still doesn't feel right, you can either, if it suits you, to carry on chanting, or go and do another task that you need to do. Shelve it, put it aside for a while. And then all of a sudden, when you have the clarity, you'll be able to go back to that challenge. If it's something very, very immediate that you need to do with now, then yes, of course, go back to the Maha Mantra. But don't go to the Maha Mantra as a way of, please help me. Don't do it that way, because Lord Krishna, he doesn't respond very well to those type of demands. What he likes to know is how much we love him. So we chant not because we want Lord Krishna's help with this challenge, but we chant because of our love for Lord Krishna. I love the Lord. He's the one that I have this unconditional love relationship with. He's the one that I believe in. He's the one that I trust. He's the one that guides me. So, what I suggest you do is just chant with a slightly different approach. So rather than doing it for him to solve your problem, just do it out of an expression of love. And then you start to feel something very, very different, a different type of alignment. And the one reason why he's given you a challenge in the first place is because, as I said to you before, you would have a very, very mundane life if you didn't have challenges. But with every challenge, he doesn't give the solution straight away always. But he will guide you to the point where you do have a solution or an outcome. But meanwhile, what he's doing is encouraging you to get closer. So you're having to dig deeper. Dig deeper and dig deeper and dig deeper. And he's bringing you closer and closer to the Lord and expressing more Krishna Prem and more Krishna Prem and more Krishna Prem. So it's like sometimes we get a little bit lost and we just can't find a way out of something. I remember many years ago, I was living in the Kami world. I had a healing clinic in central London. Anyway, I was in the park on my bicycle and there was this large roundabout. And there was about 6 or 7 exits of this roundabout. There was a pedestrian roundabout rather than a car roundabout. And I was going round trying to find my way out of this park. And every exit I took kept on bringing me back. And I was just going round and round in circles. I couldn't work it out. Have I tried this turning? Have I tried that turning? And each time I was kept on coming back and coming back and coming back. Eventually, I worked my way out. But sometimes we just have to stay where we are in that moment in time because this is what Lord Krishna's arranged. There are different levels of challenges and there's different aspects of challenges. It's not just straightforward as a yes or no or a good or a bad. Sometimes it's deeper. It's deeper to a challenge because there's different scenarios. I remember once when I had a challenge with the ashram I was living in, with some Prabhus that I was living with. And I had to learn lots of different things because I had high expectations of those Prabhus. Because I think in a certain way, I behave in a certain way. And in one regard, I expected them to think and do similarly. But it wasn't to be the case. And what I had to do was, rather than expect them to make the changes in their life, in their perception, I needed to learn, and it took a long time to learn this lesson, but I needed to learn, number one, not to expect other people to think the same way as I think, to do the same way as I do. I therefore had to learn also how to still love them for who they are, because just the way that they thought was different didn't make them a bad person or a person that I should dislike or not love. Similarly, I had to learn to adapt. Adapt to the situation was that this is not all in my control. I am not the controller. I was behaving like I was the controller. Similarly, I had to learn another lesson, and that's tolerance. I had to accept what was around me and find that level of tolerance so that I could actually get on with my life in the ashram rather than actually having this conflict, because it wasn't doing me any good. You see, when we have a problem with other people, it's not always about them and their problem. It's about us. Why do I have a problem with other people? Isn't because they are doing something that is wrong. It's about my perception. You see, I need to learn how to actually respect everyone for who they are, and maybe they're mirroring what I need to deal with. Sometimes we can say that what you dislike in someone else is what you dislike in yourself. But it doesn't always work that way. You see, the problem that I was having was something completely different. But it had counter lessons. So that Prabhu had one lesson, and my lesson was a different lesson, but was dealing with the same challenge. So sometimes with the same challenge, two different people have two different aspects to the challenge. But all in all, what I needed to learn was that I needed to allow the situation to dissipate so that I didn't have the stress or anxiety inside me. I wasn't getting frustrated, I wasn't getting aggravated anymore, and I wasn't having high expectations of other people. So this one challenge had all these lessons. It was massive, absolutely massive. And the whole experience took over 2 years. But it was worth it. Because what happens when we get challenges and we get lessons from the Lord is if we don't know the lessons, then we have to study more or revise more and take our tests and exams again. No difference to me at college or university or at school. If you don't pass your test, then you have to study harder until you do pass a test. And we can take it even to the bigger picture of challenges in life. In our past lives, Lord Krishna gave us the opportunity to make him the centre of our life. And in return, he gave us the option to return back to Godhead. Whether it's Goloka Vrindavan or Vaikuntha, he gave us that option. But we didn't study hard enough, we didn't graduate. So this is why we are now in the life that we are, in the body that we are, in the family that we are, to the parents that we have, and the siblings, the brothers and sisters we have. Because we have lessons to learn out of this life that Lord Krishna has arranged for us, based on our karma and our past desires. And similarly, as we've gone through life, through childhood into adulthood, we've been presented with more lessons and more challenges. So actually, every one of these challenges, every one of these lessons are so meaningful when we start to perceive things very, very differently. And that's very, 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 very beautiful. And when we start to open up our mind that everything serves a purpose, Lord Krishna has arranged everything in our lives, then we can settle into our studies on a more deeper level. But still I say, when you're confronted with a challenge and you don't have that clarity as to what you've been doing, or what you think you should be doing, or what you try to do, stop. Go back to the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And slowly but surely, on the day and in the moment of time when Lord Krishna says, okay, you've completed your challenge, you've completed your lesson, he will demonstrate to you that you're able to move forward. And this is what happened with me with my challenge in the ashram, because all of a sudden he changed something in my life in the ashram, and then put me in a situation where all those issues just disappeared because they weren't relevant anymore. And that's when I learned that the challenge was over. But as I said to you, this one challenge took over 2 years. And so be it. These are so important, because now all what I've learned with this challenge affect all of my perception in respect to who I am, what I do, what I think, how I behave, what do I expect of others. And it's beautiful, because what he's done some rewiring. My character's changed, my ego has changed, my perception has changed, and now I'm able to integrate into the ashram life in a far better way here on. And it's very, very, very beautiful. So what he's done is not only decontaminated my mind in the way that it was thinking before, and as I say before, rewire it, but what he's done is he's taken me through this purification process for me to become a better version of myself. And I feel, all in all, it was a beautiful, but had its hard moments. And yes, some of those hills we've got to climb are quite high. But at the end of every hill climb, we can come nicely down again. And every bumpy road that we go on, at some point it smooths out. And sometimes when we get lost, all of a sudden we find that direction. And this is all by Lord Krishna's arrangement. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama,